And we're live on the Extraordinary Sports YouTube channel, baby. I'm your host, Alex Monaco, chilling with my special guest, Cota Kang, his nickname, former German and Greek professional basketball player. Cota, thank you so much for joining me. How you doing this afternoon?
All right, doing all right. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Obviously excited to be here, talk some basketball with a real basketball player, my friend. Let's get popping. So, just to segue nicely into our basketball talk, you and I, before we hopped on the mic, got into a little bit about who the best point guard is for their team. And now we did agree that Chris Paul, Stephen Curry, Kyrie, those guys are at the top of their game and at the top of that position. But the particular conversation we got into was with John Wall and Damian Lillard. Now, I want you to start off by telling myself and the viewers what your takeaway is on what separates a good point guard from a great point guard.
Well, again, it depends on who's talking. I mean, some people just think of a point guard as just another position on the court. And are you good? Are you talented? You know, you look at a Kyrie Irving, you know, there's almost nothing he can't do with a basketball. You can make an argument he's the best point guard in the league. Or if you talk about real basketball aficionados, real like old school kind of mentality, where you are looking at a point guard as a player that has to run the team, has facilitates offense, dish the ball, you know, kind of like a middle linebacker in football, you know, be a coach on the court. So you're talking from those two different angles. But I'm going to talk from that angle, from the more of the aficionado, more of the old school kind of what a real point guard is. John Stockton, Magic Johnson, those guys.
Well, so because to me, the interesting thing, not to compare sports too much, but obviously point guard's the leader, a quarterback's a leader. I know you just alluded to a middle linebacker. But in football, you can't keep the ball in your hand and do it all yourself. In basketball, you kind of can be the man, and there is that line ball hog. So for me, I'm curious from your perspective, where's the middle ground from not doing too much but making sure you do enough for your team at that particular position?
Well, it's a good question to segue from the comment you just made. The reason I've compared it to a middle linebacker instead of a quarterback, the quarterback goes out and does his specific job. Snaps the ball, he's looking for the open receiver, or he's going to hand the ball off. That's his specific job. I mean, he needs to be able to read the defense. He needs to know where to go with the ball. Whereas a middle linebacker is going to tell the other linebackers, is going to tell the D-backs, is going to tell the front four what to look for, where they're going. So that's more of a point guard. That's why I compare it more to the middle linebacker than a quarterback. So when you talk about a point guard, I mean, it's You have the ball. You're at the top of the key. You're going through front. You have a different perspective of the game than your forward, than your center, than your guard that's looking at you because you have the ball, than your center that's in the post. I mean, literally, your vision, your perspective of the game is different. And that's what separates a point guard from all these other positions. And that's why it's so important. Because now as a point guard, if I got the ball at the top, again, I can see the wing, I can see the front court, I can see the entire court. I can see what the defense is doing. I can see what all four other defensive players are doing. I can see where they're leaning. I can see what weight is on which foot. I can see what's going on. So it's my responsibility to tell the guard, to tell the forward, to tell the center, whatever. I'm not a point guard, but if I were, it would be my responsibility to tell these guys where they should be, what's going on, or how we should attack this defense. And again, that's the different mentality of a point guard.
Well, I feel like, and we're young. You've been a student of the game for a minute, so you can speak on this more than I can. But from the point guard position, it seems like, yes, it was pass first always. John Stockton, even though Magic was a scorer, he looked to pass the ball first. Now you're seeing guys like a Westbrook, a Lillard. Not saying those guys don't distribute the ball, but they are scorers. Do you like the trend at the point guard position of being a little bit of a hybrid 1-2, or do you think that point guards are better being point guards and staying in that world?
Well, I mean, I don't mind it either way, to be honest. I mean, when you talk about a Westbrook, you talk about a Steph Curry, you talk about Kyrie, you talk about, I mean, Cleveland doesn't win without Kyrie Irving. I mean, if you replace him with more of a traditional point guard, do they win? We don't really know. But they don't win without Kyrie playing the way he played, playing aggressive, taking the shots he needs to take. Oklahoma City, they're not even a playoff team next year without Westbrook. So, I mean, again, it's about the team you have, the coach you have, the kind of mentality, and the style of basketball you play. So I'm down with either way. I mean, I think Westbrook he's one of the most phenomenal players in basketball. Now, if I'm Kevin Durant or if I'm, two guard on a team who I want to play with is a different story. But as far as a fan of basketball, if you get your team to win, listen, as a point guard, whether you score 20 or dish 12 assists, your job is to get your team to win. And how you play and what point guard fits best depends on the rest of your roster and the kind of basketball you play. Does Russell Westbrook work in Oklahoma City? Yes. Does he work in San Antonio? Absolutely not.
Well, that to me is very interesting. That's a great point, and I completely agree with you in that regard. My thing is, I guess, why – okay, so let's bring up what the meat and potatoes of this conversation. That is John Wall and Damian Lillard, baby. So just recapping real quick so you're up to speed on my end with the statistics that I'm looking at. So Lillard's been in the league 4 years. He's averaging career 21 around down, around up, 21, 6, and 4. This season he averaged 25, 7, and 4. Whereas John Wall, your boy, 6 years in the league, this year averaged, I'm around up, 20, 10, and 5. And in his career, 19, 9, and 4.5. I was sitting there arguing with you, looking at Lillard saying, all right, how can you not take Lillard over John Wall as a winner when you're looking at Lillard, who got 4 new starters this season? No Robin Lopez, no Aldridge, no Batum, no Wesley Matthews. 4 new guys most people couldn't even name. I can, you can, most people can't name. Goes to the Final Four. Competitive against the Warriors. To you, all of that is irrelevant. You look at value.
Final Four?
You know I'm saying the Final Four in the West, baby. All right? Final Four in the West.
So you mean the second round? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, you got to the second round, all right? I'm trying to make my argument look better. Okay.
Well, that's my job. Let's not give credit for going to the second round.
All right. That's fine. That's fair. But real talk, I'm taking Lillard on my team because I like what he brings to an organization. You like John Wall. Let's hear your argument.
Again, I don't not like Damian Lillard. I mean, Damian Lillard, again, a fantastic basketball player. But what we were talking about is as a point guard and a fit for their team. If this is 2-3 years ago, there is no question about it. I'm taking Damian Lillard. But the way John Wall has progressed, and I think I mentioned this to you as well. When John Wall first came in the league, I wasn't a fan at all. I mean, he seemed immature to me. He seemed like he wasn't ready to lead a team. You know, dancing before games, doing all that crazy stuff. And I got friends in D.C. that Wizards fans, John Wall Jones, you're not going to win with a cat like that. But the way he has progressed and matured and the way he now plays basketball, I'm going to take him all day as a point guard. I mean, he's averaging double-digit assists, which for me, I don't think should be that big of a deal. I mean, I think most point guards should be averaging 10 assists a game, but it's just not the case in the game. Now, if Damian Lillard were a 6'6" guard, he might be Kobe Bryant, but he's not. He's a point guard. And not only do I look at the stats, the assists, turnovers, and the point guard mentality, but I also look at when you talk about Damian Lillard in the playoffs last year going second round, if you look at the fourth quarter, in the last 2 and 3 minutes of the game, look at the decisions that some of the worst shots I've ever seen in my life. Damian Lillard, double team behind the 3-point line, dribble, pull up. Again, you can't have that from your point guard. You can't, because now you got 4 players sitting around doing nothing. No offensive rebounds. And then if that happens, of course, long shots, long rebounds. Now I'm disinterested in defense too because I just watched my point guard dribble around for 12 seconds and take an awful shot. Those are the kind of things that as a point guard we need to look at because it's not just about, getting to the second round. I mean, half the teams make the playoffs. I mean, that's not an accomplishment. So making the playoffs isn't that big of a accomplishment. Getting the second round.
John Wall not making the playoffs is something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll give you that point. The Wizards didn't make the playoffs. John Wall did not make the playoffs. The Wizards didn't make the playoffs. Yeah, come on. But nonetheless, it's not just about and when you mention the progression now of the point guard position and even just basketball itself, more of the selfish, more of the one-on-one game. That's part of the problem. And that's another reason that I can't look at a Damian Lillard, as talented as he is, and say I would take him at point guard. So if he was 6'6", 6'7", 2 guard, I mean, he might be compared to some of the greatest ever. But I just have to take my point guard over a John Wall who, he's Russell Westbrook Jr. I mean, he'll go out there and get you a triple-double in a playoff game. I mean, and he'll go out there and on a defensive end too and buckle down and say, you know what, this is possession we need. We got to do this. Let's make it happen. On the offensive end, when it's time for Portland to get a bucket, when Portland needs a tough bucket, and when Washington needs a tough bucket, John Wall, he can hit the three. More than likely, he's going to try to get to the hole or dish the ball to someone else. Damian Lillard, more likely, is going to take a step back for them. Which one would you rather have?
I'd rather have the former. Now, let me bring it back because I wanted to get your basketball opinion on what you were just talking about with Lillard stuck in the corner, throwing up egregious shots in that second round against the Warriors. Just unwatchable. Yeah, multiple. Okay. If you're the man on your team, right, and basketball, you kind of know intuitively who the man is on your team or who's the guy taking the shot. I mean, not every team has a guy, but you're still going to delegate a guy. But you're in a cold streak in the game, but it's the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just easier said than done, but I find this fascinating. Why would Lillard, if he's out of the flow, if he's not on a hot streak, why would he continue to force up shots when he could get everyone involved? And that's kind of what you do in baseball. You're slumping, you bunt, you walk, you get hit by a pitch, whatever you got to do to get on base to break the slump. Same thing in this. But, I mean, well, okay, but my point is, why in basketball is it harder for the leaders, the alphas, to not, even if they're having a cold streak, to delegate, especially a Lillard who's a point guard who should be dishing the rock?
Right. One very good question, because it's a good question because why does Damian Lillard, why do certain players continue to do that? Not all players do that, and especially the alphas that talk about the team leaders. They know that, hey, listen, this is just it's not what I should be doing. And again, especially as a point guard. But part of the reason is because, like you said, you are designated as the man, as the alpha, as the one that has to lead his team. And then when you hear the rhetoric so often, especially about Portland last year, you know, they new starting five and the injuries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When that rhetoric goes around, it gives so much leeway. It gives so much license to a Damian Lillard to say, listen, I don't have a choice. What am I supposed to do? I mean, look at the roster, new team, new starting five, all the injuries. I'm the best player on the team. They ride and die with me. Let me go out and do that. I mean, and that's part of that mentality. It's part of that psychological mentality to keep talking about this new shift to this one-on-one basketball where when it's time, and even back in the day, even before, you know, this really happened, still, even if team basketball was more prevalent back then, but still when it came down to the last 2 minutes, you know, you see more one-on-one basketball. And that's how it is today. It's even Golden State, even San Antonio, even Atlanta, the teams that play team basketball. When it comes down to the last 2 minutes of the game and you need a bucket, it's still more one-on-one or maybe pick and roll. But it's that mentality. It's, okay, we need to lean on someone's shoulders, which to me is kind of a fallacy. It's kind of bad thinking and certainly counterproductive.
Yeah, it's a team game. And we talked about this as well. I don't think the Cavs win Game 7 if the Warriors move the basketball like they did all season in the last half quarter in Game 7 of the fourth. They didn't. Right. They didn't score a basket. They went 0-6 down the stretch. Curry went 0-4. I mean, we're talking about Curry on the perimeter, only down 2 with 30-something seconds left, trying to school Kevin Love to force an ill-advised 3. Like, go to the rack, 2 for 1, you know, whatever you got to do. It's fascinating to me, but yes, I mean, you brought up a very interesting point. Why it's a fallacy. It's a team game. You trust each other for 46 and a half minutes, and then 90 seconds left, and everyone's standing around looking at a guy to make a play.
Right, because
that would be the time you pass the rock.
Played 82 plus games, and we're told every day that for 48 minutes, here's the best offense. You know, let's move without the ball, let's pass the ball, et cetera, et cetera. If that's what's best in the first quarter, and second quarter, third quarter, and that's what's best for 82 games, then it's likely that that's what's best in the last 20 seconds or the last minute of the game. But again, it goes back to that mentality that, listen, in the crunch time, and you hear media, you hear sportscasters, you hear everyone talk about it, it's that rhetoric that, and it's crunch time, who's going to take the final shot? You know, Olympics just ended. You talk about, for example, I mean, that was always a question. You got all this Olympic team, some of the best players in the world. When it comes down to it, who's going to take the final shot? And then when you talk about now with all these super teams, as they call them, with the big threes, all these NBA players joining teams, they always ask them. Even now, Kevin Durant, Golden State, what do they say? They say, okay, well, you got Steph, you got Clay, you got KD. Who's going to take the final shot when it comes down to it? And again, and people don't understand that literally affects an entire psyche of people. That affects how you approach the game. I mean, things like that get embedded in your mentality, and they stay with you. And now there's this thought that, okay, it's a tie ball game. We're down by 1. We got 1 possession left. What are we going to do? We're going to hold the ball till there's 8 seconds on the shot clock. and then somebody, our best player, is going to try to get a shot up. Why? It doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it still be more prudent to say, let's run an offense and get the best shot we can?
I think it beautifully said, by the way. This is stuff that should be talked about on ESPN and Fox Sports. My thought, okay, so ask me this. Why? That's the fascinating point about it being embedded into you psychologically and all of that. Now, is part of that because you're not going to blame your team nearly as much if James Harden misses the shot or Westbrook misses the shot than if they did 4 passes and Corey Brewer took it in the corner, or 4 passes and Dion Waiters, or, Ibaka, someone that's just not the go-to guy. Do you think that that's part of it, that they don't want to have to say, well, we passed the ball 4 times in the last possession, but Ibaka took the shot instead of Westbrook. That's why we lost.
Yeah, well, without a doubt, that certainly plays a role because, again, you don't want to be able to say, listen, why is Ibaka taking that last shot? Or why is, so-and-so taking this last shot? Why is Harrison Barnes taking any shots? But why is Harrison Barnes taking the last shot? Yeah, but again, that goes back to that fallacy of that mentality. Why? Because and only people that say that are people that, again, don't really watch basketball, that don't really understand basketball. Now, it'd be one thing if Serge Ibaka or Harrison Barnes got the ball with 15 seconds left and they dribble, spin move, and took a shot. It's another thing if you ran a play, pass, cut, and they got a wide open 15-footer and just happened to miss it. I mean, why are they taking that shot? Because that's how the play was designed. That was the best shot. They happen to be open at that moment because, of course, when you're talking about your best players versus role players, if I'm coming out of a timeout with 10 seconds left on defense, who am I going to key on? I'm going to key on Kevin Durant. I'm going to key on Stephen Curry. So it is more likely that some of your not as talented players will have better shots. And as a coach, it makes sense to draw up plays that will get them those shots. Now, I don't want Harrison Barnes shooting a 25-footer, or Ibaka shooting a 25-footer, 22-footer. But if I got an open 12-footer, if I can design a play to get an open 12-footer from a Serge Ibaka, and I don't want to pick on Serge Ibaka, it's just name just came up. But any player in that role, yeah, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that 12-footer from an open role player rather than a 23-footer from a double-team star any day. And if people
even in the last shot of the game, that statement's for the last shot of the game as well.
Without a doubt. Why do I want Steph Curry dribbling around the three-point line, double-team, shooting a pull-up, fadeaway, whatever, from 23, 24, 25 feet? Although it's Steph Curry, of course, but I still would take an open 12-footer from Iguodala. I'm not going to say Harrison Barnes because I would take that fadeaway from Steph Curry right now over anything Harrison Barnes putting up. But I'll take a 12-footer from Iguodala than over a 24-footer from a double-team Steph Curry. And we just saw it happen. And I'm sure any coach will take that as well.
Do you think guys like Popovich and, guys like Popovich, this is high IQ, high basketball IQ.
Right.
You don't think they're watching and intuitively they know who should get the ball at the end or whatever the case may be, but because they have to deal with enormous alpha egos, that maybe the coach, not just Popovich is probably a bad example for this, but someone like, I don't know, a Scott Brooks from a year or two ago where we seen Durant going like this in the end of a game and Westbrook throws up something with 2-3 guys in his hand and they're walking out, no one's slapping hands. Do you think those guys know what's best from a coaching perspective? They just don't say anything because, like you just said, the way of the game, you got to give it to the guy?
Yeah, Popovich is the worst example. Guys like that really, you talk about one of the best coaches ever. Not by any stretch.
But the Scotty Brooks example, something like that.
But when you talk about certain coaches and certain teams, it's not even necessarily what the coach is thinking. I mean, if you go back to last year, I think it was last season, might have been 2 years. Last season, Cleveland versus Chicago, when LeBron hits that 3 in the corner, I don't remember if it was a tie or to win the game, but there are times like that where players are just like, listen, give me the ball. The ball's coming to me. I mean, and there's nothing that a coach can do in that situation. When you got players the caliber, the star power of a Kobe, of a LeBron, of a D-Wade, et cetera, and again, rightfully so. Players like that should want and say, listen, give me the ball. It's coming to me. But again, it's different when there's 2 or 3 seconds left, 4 seconds left, as opposed to we got 1 possession left or maybe 1 or 2 possessions left. But yeah, to your point, there are times where, again, coaches, you're going to draw up a play for 3 or 4 seconds, or you're just going to say, let me put the ball hands of my best player, and let's ride with it.
Now let me ask you a question about momentum, because I find that the game, they call basketball a game of runs. I'm sure you wouldn't argue against it. To me, I find runs in basketball fascinating because it takes 5 guys and on both sides of the court. Obviously, you get double-digit runs and things of that nature. We know the sport is mental just as it is physical. From a mental standpoint, can you touch on how momentum works in the game of basketball?
Well, again, going back to people that really understand the game and more of an old school kind of mentality, it works because for 48 minutes, it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how well coached you are, doesn't matter how much better than the other team you are. You got to play for 48 minutes. And most of the time, you're just not going to outplay a team for 48 straight minutes. Even the best versus verse, there'll be a few minutes in there. So, and again, you're playing 48 minutes. You got 12 men on the roster or 15 men on the roster, 12 active, whatever it may be. You can't play 46 minutes a game. You got an 82-game season. So you got to bring out your best players. You got to work in dynamics between, this lineup and not just what lineup I have, but what lineup versus the team I'm playing, what they might be doing, what they might be trying to do. And sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not going to work. So it's just, it's going to be an 8-0 run. It's going to be a 10-2 run. It's going to be whatever it may be. And at the same time, even at times when you are playing well, when you're just playing well, you're still not going to make every shot. You're still not going to make every play. You're still going to turn the ball over. I mean, you're going to have mental lapses. You're going to have fatigue. You're just going to miss open shots sometimes. It's just the nature of a 48-minute game.
Touché.
And the best team, they know how to play well more consistently, and they know how to weather the storms when they're not playing that well, when the other team are hitting shots and you're not hitting shots, etc. Those are the better teams. Those are the better coach teams. And that is why Greg Popovich in San Antonio, because Greg Popovich, again, I don't know him personally. I've never seen him. This is just the impression I get from him. It seems to me that he is one of the very few people in the game that really, truly preaches and understands the value of every single possession. Every single possession. Because players, coaches, whatever, it's just easy to say, as 48 minutes game, oh, that's a bad shot. And mostly players, and again, we're going back to some of that best players, that one-on-one mentality. Oh, I'm feeling kind of whatever. Let me go down and pull up. It's just one possession. No, but every single possession matters. And again, if you're the one going on those 6-0 runs, as opposed to having it happen to you, now you're up 6, you're up 8, you're up 10, you're up 15, as opposed to you're up 6, you're up 8, you're up 2, you're up 1, you're down 4, you're up 6, you're down 2. Every single possession matters.
Wow. Well, so let's talk a little bit more about mindset. I'm fascinated with the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, mainly from a meditation standpoint, because Phil Jackson and George Mumford and everyone that's pushed the mindset in the meditation with them. But I find it fascinating that some guys have a Kobe mindset, some guys don't. Right. Being a former professional athlete, what do you think it takes to be, from a mindset standpoint, great as opposed to just average?
Well, those are two different questions. Kind of, you're alluding to a different question. So to be great versus average is a different question than to be a Kobe or Mike. That kind of.
Well, I meant from a mindset standpoint. Kobe. So I did go all over the board there, but yes, the mindset of them. Are you born that way?
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I was going to get into, because one, to be great and even have a great mindset, I mean, that just takes dedication and commitment. Like, listen, I want to be good. I want to be great. Let me work. But to be a Mike, to be a Kobe, to that mindset, honestly, I mean, I think it takes childhood trauma to have that kind of mindset where you say, listen, I am focusing my life on being better than everyone else at this particular thing, and not everyone else now, but everyone else that's ever done it. I'm gonna do this differently than everyone else. I think that takes some kind of real deep-rooted pain and anger to say, you know what, you just won an NBA championship. What are you doing 2 days later? I'm in the gym taking shots. Or I'm working on my left hook. I'm working on my pull-up, et cetera. I mean, I really think it takes like some, not just a normal passion, but some deep-rooted pain and anger to say, you know what, This world did something to me. What am I going to do about that? I'm going to go out here on this basketball court, and I'm going to be the greatest that ever did it. Now, to just be great, you know, I mean, we all know what it takes to be great. It just takes commitment. You know, you go out and you work on your game, you work on your craft. You know, but it's difficult these days. You know, we kind of hit it on this before that, you know, you're looking at these 19, 20, 20-year-old kids, a lot of them, you know, coming from middle to lower class families, you know, never really had anything in life. And now all of a sudden, you know, now you got $3 million, $6 million, $8 million. You know, and every 2 weeks you get another $700,000 or $1 million, whatever it might be. What do you do? Season's over. You just played 82 games as a rookie or your second year in league. Your team won 35 games. What are you going to do? You going to be in the basketball court shooting shots, or you going to be on your yacht, you know, with your best friends and beautiful women partying, getting up? I mean, most people are going to say, most 18, 19, 20-year-olds anyway, they're going to say, I'm going to be on that yacht with my best friends and 8 beautiful women. So that's the difference between being good and great and average. But being Mike and Kobe, yeah, that's a different level.
Do you think LeBron, from a mindset standpoint, comes close to those two?
I don't, not at all. And I don't mean that negatively either, because the more you watch and the more you listen to LeBron, and even now that he's won, he's been out in public even a little bit more. He's not because, and he said this, he wants his legacy to be more about just playing basketball. He wants to own an NBA team someday. I mean, he's a businessman. You know, he's way more about himself as a product and as a mogul and his brand than he is about just strictly winning NBA championships. So again, I don't think he is by any stretch of imagination, but I don't say that in a negative light or with any disrespect. His mind is just somewhere else, and I don't think there has been. I mean, Mike and Kobe. I mean, certainly in my lifetime, there hasn't been that mentality where, listen, this is the most important thing in my life, and I'm gonna show everybody what I can do on this court.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you a question about, I guess, the style of the NBA right now. They call the NFL a copycat league. For example, when the Dolphins started doing the Wildcat, a couple teams started doing the Wildcat, no huddle, a couple teams started doing that. Point being, here we are in kind of this Steph Curry era right now where the 3-ball has never been more exciting. Looking at the next generation coming up, are you concerned that the Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal style of basketball is going to go farther away than it is coming back because of this new kind of, you know, outside shooting?
I wouldn't say concerned. I mean, it's still a very entertaining game, and arguably even more entertaining now, even though I understand the old school cats, I understand their arguments, and again, I'm a child of the 80s. So, I mean, I know what basketball was like back then. It was way more aggressive. You know, the things that you can get away with now, or you can get away with back then, there's no chance. I mean, people out on the first quarter, they played the way they played in the 80s and 90s. So, I mean, I understand that, and I completely agree with that. And there's much to be respected about that style of play. But at the same time, it's basketball. I mean, it's still varying what goes on in the NBA now. So I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I mean, I would like to see, you know, for me, whether it's dunk down in the post, kick out, whether it's 3-pointers, whether it's pick and roll, whatever it is, as long as it's more of a team game, as long as it's actually basketball. And again, basketball, I mean, the reason I love basketball so much is because literally it is so poetic. It is so much, when you play it the right way, when you play like San Antonio, when you play like Atlanta, when you play like Golden State, I mean, it's so poetic. And even in the Olympics, when you watch some of the foreign teams play, and even a couple of games that the U.S. did, well, I shouldn't say a couple of games, a couple of possessions in a couple of games that the U.S. team had this year. When you have guys passing the ball, moving without the ball, moving in synchronicity, I mean, it's poetry. And as a defense, you can't do anything about it. That's enough to watch a defensive team play so hard and be so exasperated because they did everything they could do, but here's a layup, here's a dunk, here's an open shot. That's the poetry of basketball. And when you do it the right way, it can be so easy, it can be so simple, it can be so poetic. But it's just not the game now because of the psyche of the younger players and what we're doing in high school and college. It's just not that kind of basketball. So I would be more impressed with more of a shift to that way again. And I don't care if it's guard centric, if it's center centric, if you need a big man, whatever. Because again, especially in Europe, you go play in Europe, you go watch these European teams. I mean, these cats are groomed. They when they go to practice, 6'10", 6'8", 6'9", they doing the same drills that 6'1" and 6'2" are doing. I mean, these cats, they all can shoot, they all can dribble, they all can pass the ball. I mean, that's just that mentality. Listen, we all need to be able to do X, Y, and Z because at some point in the game, you might have to do X, Y, and Z. Where in America, it's okay. Here's where the big men go. Here's where the point guards go, and then everybody else in between. Let's try to get them some kind of amalgamation of being able to shoot and play defense. So again, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but again, whether it's guard centric or big man centric, as long as it's more of a team game, I mean that would be more exciting for me.
From a college basketball standpoint, are you a fan of the one and done? You think it's hurting guys? You think, I know we talked about like the James Youngs, Kentucky, where are they now? Where are the Harrison twins? Do you think it would be a much better college game and we'd have a little more opportunity for a Damian Lillard type to come? He did 4 years at Weber State. He came out of the gates firing on all cylinders. If there were more guys that went that approach, 2 years, 3 years, even 4 years in college, you think we'd have more seasoned guys, and do you think the college game would be better?
I mean, unequivocally. I mean, you can't really argue that wouldn't be the case. I mean, more experience is more experience. You can't argue that. Yeah, I mean, if college players had to stay for 2 years or 3 years, whatever it may be, then yeah, you would have a better college game, and in turn, you would have a better NBA product. Again, that's not me advocating for that rule or that should be the case. I'm just saying if that were the case, then yeah, I mean, not just playing more basketball, but still being coached, being better coached. Because again, you coaching in college, coaching NBA is a different mentality, different kind of coaching style, and it's a different animal. Because they're both basketball, but they're such different animals that I do think college basketball will better prepare a player to be more individually skillful and a better team player than the NBA necessarily. So yeah, I mean, more years in college, it would help college basketball. It would help NBA basketball.
I like it. I want to take it personal for a hot second. I love asking athletes what is one thing or a couple of things that stuck out to you that you learned, life lessons that the game of basketball has taught you over the years playing, whether at a young age or at a professional level.
Oh, everything. I mean, I'm 36 now, and still one of the nearest, dearest people to me is my high school basketball coach.
Wow.
There's that relationship. There's always that player-coach relationship. And you talk about some of the best coaches, and when you look at certain players, and that's rampant, college, NBA, et cetera. I mean, you still talk to some of the professional players. They still, they talk about Coach K, they talk about Bobby Knight, they talk about Bobby Huggins, they talk about John Thompson. And these people are like family to them. And that's certainly how I felt about my high school coach. I mean, we still talk to this day. He's still one of the best people I know. So it teaches you, one, as a young man, how to deal with other male mentalities, testosterone, that masculinity, in some situations it could be a dog-eat-dog shark fight at practice on the court, whatever it may be. So it teaches you how to interact with other men in this world. It teaches you, teamwork and camaraderie, of course, but it also teaches you where you're at in a lot of ways, mentally and physically. Like, listen, because if you're going to be, as you get to higher levels, you start to weed off there. You go to little league CYO basketball, there's every team has this many good players. And then you go to high school, there's this many good players. College, this many good players, NBA, et cetera, et cetera. So it also lets you know, okay, listen, do I really love this game? Am I really committed to this? Yes or no. Now that I get somewhere where there's a little more adversity, because, you're the best player in your CYO team, and then you go play some real good team somewhere, and you realize you're really not that good. Now the question is, okay, well, I'm really not that good. I don't want to play anymore. Or, oh, shit, that was better than I am. Let me go get my ass in the gym and let me work. So it teaches you to define yourself, define the things that you want, the things that you need, and how you're going to go about getting them in life.
It's well said. I could have listened to that another 3 to 5, baby.
Hey, well, I got plenty of it, baby. I got plenty of it.
How about a particular moment? Any one play or one game that you still like? Wow, what a day on the court! What a day in the life.
I didn't even have to think about answering this question before you finish the question, because to this day this sits in my head. And I keep talking about my high school coach. I was sophomore in high school, you know, in the high school I went to, Roseville Catholic High School, by the way, in Roseville, New Jersey, one of the best teams in the country. Shout out to them. But the high school I went to, at the time, they just didn't let freshmen play varsity. So I didn't play varsity as a freshman. My sophomore year, first game at home, of course, everybody, the new, I was the hot basketball star, blah, blah, blah. I was waiting to see what we go out, we play this team, we beat them, had a good game, et cetera, et cetera. But at the time, I had a bad back, I had shin splints in my leg. You know, I was young, but I just had issues. So the second game, I had a doctor's appointment to go get my shin splints looked at. So I got to the game late. Got the game probably 2 minutes after the game started, didn't start, whatever, came in, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. So I came into the gym all late, and everybody's cheering, like, oh, you know, Cota's here, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, I'm feeling all good. Like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm about to look up the clock. We down by 10 already. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm coming to this game. I'm bringing the team back in. Sat down on the bench, stretched out a little bit. Coach finally puts me in. I went out there and played like shit. It just didn't. Something was just off. I don't know if it was the warm-up. I don't know if it was coming in late. Something was just off. Played like shit. We lost to a team that shouldn't have beat us. Wasn't very good. And again, I was 16, little kid. So after the game, I got a little choked up, got a little teary-eyed, and I'm sitting there next to my coach, and he's like, "So what's the problem?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just feel like I let people down. I went out there and played like shit. I thought I could do better than that. But I don't think we should have lost the game." And again, as a 16-year-old kid, you're expecting on some level to say, "Man, don't worry about it, man. It's just a game. Cheer." You know what he said to me?
What?
I said, "I feel like I laid back down, played like shit, and we shouldn't have lost the game." He looked at the right man and said, "You're right," and just walked away. He's like, "You're right," just walked away. And at first I was like, well, shit. I've known him for a few years, and even before I went to high school, I've known him because of the elementary school I went to. We had a relationship with them. So I've known him for a few years. I was like, for like 10 or 15 seconds, I was like, ain't that some shit? And I was like, you know what? He's absolutely right. Because what he said to me and what I was, listen, ain't nobody going to feel sorry for you. Not going to feel sorry for you. Get your ass up. Listen, we 1-1 now. We got a game in 2 days. What you going to do? Going to sit here crying, or we going to go get to work? Went, got to work, and that's it. And that's one thing I will always remember. And at any point in my life now where I even feel a modicum of self-sorrow or self-doubt, and I start to look at my life, look at anything that's happened to me, and feel like I feel a little bit sorry for myself. It doesn't even last a half a second before his voice is back in my head.
Wow.
Saying, "No, you're right. Well, I should have did this. Or I should have."
So the real question is, Cota, would you have traded that L for a W if you never got that life lesson?
If you asking me now, no, of course not. But if you asking a 16-year-old me to walk in the gym and save the day, hell yeah, I'd have traded that W back then.
Yeah, baby.
Right now, because I'd be worse off for it.
Oh, man, that's phenomenal. Well, I know you got a weekend to enjoy. I do want to ask one more question, if you don't mind, just because you're on a roll. You beat a lot of odds. You beat odds when you made it to the next level in college, and then you beat odds when you went professionally. I'm sure you had some naysayers. I'm sure you had some people that said you couldn't do it. Any advice to people out there, whether they want to be in the NBA or not, with naysayers or negativity? How basically your personal kind of pump up for people out there, staying in your lane, tunnel vision, to get to the goal you want to get at, since you obviously were very successful in your craft early on?
Yeah, that's such a more convoluted question than you probably thought it was going to be. I don't really like when people ask that question, because most of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to get some generic Twitter, or, just stay focused and et cetera, and you watch it on TV all the time. Even after post-game interviews, they ask the athlete, well, what would you say to so-and-so, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I typically feel like that's kind of a weak, easy question to ask just to get.
We're ending. We could have ended here.
Well, no,
I just brought down the Austin Powers mojo.
Although the question may not have much weight, let's see if we can put some on top of it with the answer, though.
Put some sauce on it, baby.
Continuing. Right now, that's such a tough question to answer with these young cats that are growing up in this country today because of social media. It's so hard just to tell someone now, well, just ignore the negativity, just stay focused, et cetera, because they're so integrated now. They're so, with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all the, whatever the hell all that shit is. I mean, high school kids, elementary school kids, I mean, that is their life. That is their world. They are just tentacled into social media, and they hear everything and see everything 24 hours a day, nonstop. So if I were to really give advice to someone coming up trying to accomplish anything, I mean, honestly, my first advice to any kid would be to get the fuck off of social media. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, literally get off of it. There's just no, especially as a kid, you in high school, where are your friends at? They in class. What you mean Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram for? You see them motherfuckers every day. Why you need to go home and Facebook these jokers, man? Go to someone's house, go call somebody. Like, you don't even need that shit. So that would absolutely be the first piece of advice. And then after that, again, it's still difficult because as a kid, one, you want to enjoy life. And I wouldn't want anyone, parent, teacher, coach, to tell any 12-year-old, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid that, listen, this is what your life has to be. This is what you need to focus on. Go do it. Because, I mean, you need to enjoy life. I mean, balance is key. Balance is crucial. Make sure you spend time with the people that you want to spend time with, your friends and family. Make sure you do the things that you enjoy, regardless of what it might look like or feel like, to other people. And then when you find something that you're passionate about, when you find something that you truly love, not that you're good at necessarily. And I know a lot of kids are told when you find something you're good at, then practice that. No. When you find something that you really love and are passionate about and makes you feel good, whether you're good at it or not, go do that. Go stick down that path. And it doesn't have to be a career. It doesn't have to be for financial reasons. Whether it's just a hobby or whatever it may be, go do that. Because if that's really, truly part of who you are, then you'll never really be happy and you'll never be able to do all the other things you want to do without holding on to those parts to you. That's what I would tell a young buck.
As subpar as my question may have been, good sir, that answer was 100.
All right, I appreciate that.
No, man, we might have to have another, like, Cota's Corner after hours with a little sauce. I mean, you probably got some wisdom behind you.
We all do in our own ways, man.
There it is, man. Well, Cota, I so appreciate the time, the insight, the camaraderie on the mic. Appreciate you taking your talents to the mic, baby. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Had a good time, man. Anytime, Alex. Just let me know.
Hey, next up, NFL, baby.
I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
There it is. It's Cota Kang, former German and Greek professional basketball player. I'm Alex Monaco. You're on the Extraordinary Sports YouTube channel. Thanks again, Cota. Until next time.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Peace.